Hi everybody, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I thought I'd just post a quick video on this as I've learned a lot as I've gone along. I consulted a lot on the P38 Owners Club. So the engine that was in my P38, 2.5 litre diesel, spun a bearing and it ended up throwing a rod on number 4. To be honest, I've never had a M51 bottom end go on me before. So it's the first time for that. I was searching everywhere for a 6-cylinder engine. Been looking for about 2 weeks now. They're getting thin on the ground. As you might notice, this one looks like it wasn't really on the ground. Looks like it came from the bottom of a sewer somewhere maybe. Because I'm a sadist, I thought it'll be all right. I bought it. It was actually quite cheap. I only paid £150 for the engine, so it is what it is. This came out of a Vauxhall Omega. I'm sure quite a lot of people knew that they came in a Vauxhall Omega. There's not much online about putting an M51 out of an Omega into a P31. So I was worried initially about innumerable things. I thought, yeah, I'm sure the long motor's probably the same, but I bet absolutely everything has to be bolted from one onto the other. To a point that is the case, but not quite to the point that you think. So this was a X25 DT. It's the 130 horsepower. It came from a 2000. I did as much research as I could on it. Wikipedia threw up tiny amounts of information about it, but ultimately there's not much. But from what I have learned, speaking to people in the Vauxhall Owners Club and the P38 Club, there is some identifiers to see on the engine that makes it a bit easier. And so mine's a later plastic intake manifold. This engine is actually an alley intake engine. There's the alley intake off it. So one of the notifiers is these, the pins for the intake. You can see it a bit clearer on this one. This one's blanked, so it can only have one orientation of the cylinder head of the intake manifold. So this one's just for a plastic one. From 1998 to 2000, on all variants of the M51 cylinder heads, apparently they've all got for both orientations. And then again, the earlier ones only have the orientation for the alley intake. So if you're looking, it is actually reasonably important, this piece, because if it has got these available on the alley intake, there's a very strong likelihood your fuel pump's the same. So on a 325, apparently, I've actually bought a 325. Now I've got quite a few P38s, and inevitably in the future I'll be swapping another engine. The centering for the fuel pump is smaller on a 325. Numerous people have told me this now. So to be able to make the P38 fuel pump fit in there, you have to machine the fuel pump, or machine the casting to fit the fuel pump in there. The locking pins are all situated in the same place, and it all works aside that. But on these particular engines, the later ones, they do interchange. As I said, I am a bit of a sadist, and this engine, it did pass a compression test. I checked the bottom end. Everything's fine with it, really. Not much history with the engine. They said that the car ran fine. They cut it out roughly the same time as the last pterodactyl was seen flying. I thought, yeah, well, I'll give it a go. It's only £150, and they're not really that big of a job to swap the engine in them. You can do an engine swap in a P38 in a day. I've done it. Well, you can do it in about 6 hours. They are exceptionally straightforward, and this is why I've got such an affinity to the P38s, because they are so simple. They are literally a great big Meccano set. I think over the years people have got a bit worried about the electrics on them, and you know, that's mainly what people run them down for. But to be fair, I've never really had that big a problem with the electrics. The air suspension, delete it. Just cut that shit right out. Stick some coils on, then you just don't get any problems with that. The EKA code, unlock your ECU, and then you'll never have that problem again. then they soldier on. They never really go wrong, the petrols anyway. And in terms of swapping an engine in them, it's easy. Swapping a cylinder head is intimidating, but it's not difficult. That engine, I did actually swap the cylinder head on. I should have probably done a video of me swapping the cylinder head on it. It was unfortunate that the bottom end that I used obviously wasn't in particularly great shape. It was late. I desperately needed to have the old thing back to go and tow another car back. And that's what happens when you rush. You should never rush. Take your time, and then you don't have to go through this kind of hellish behaviour. So in terms of what's actually different on the engines, the sumps are different, the pickups are different, but that's no problem, pretty straightforward, bolt it on. I'm sure that everybody assumed that would probably be the case. The brackets are all the same. The alternator bracket, bolt straight on. Power steering pump bracket, bolt straight on. Water pumps, interchangeable, they bolt straight on. Same with the pump for the brakes, bolt straight on. Everything's the same. Even the air conditioning pump is the same. It would work. I personally don't bother running air conditioning. It doesn't work on it. So obviously you've got to change the mounts. The mounts are different. The turbo, you probably could run the turbo off of the Vauxhall, but it is noticeably smaller and it fits in a different orientation. It's slightly tighter towards the engine block. I'm going to change this pipe, though I do think that I was going to blank my EGR off, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put it all back to exactly how it should have been. But if you were to block the EGR off, I actually think this is probably a bit of a better system, having this pipe that's longer and a second hose to your heater matrix. But I don't know, I am in two minds of maybe adapting it so that I can run it and just blanking my EGR off. I'm not sure. At the moment I've got it to the point where it cranks. I am a bit busy today, but maybe tonight I'll get it running. One of the other things that's different, but this is, as far as I'm aware, the same on any alley to plastic conversion. The pins are shorter for the intake, so you have to swap the pins over or stick bolts in. I suppose it's up to your own choice on that. But yeah, I was surprised. The loom, oh, that's another thing. The loom, you have to change the loom, they're different. I changed the crank sensor just in case, but they appeared to be the same. Yeah, I thought it would just be a bit handy for somebody that, you know, might have a donor or know to a donor Vauxhall Omega. And as a P38 and was thinking about swapping the engine, because there really is nothing online about an Omega swap. Quite a lot of people have done 525s and 325s. This is the first time I've ever put a different M51 into the Range Rovers. I've swapped innumerable engines in them. They are absolutely terrible. I don't know how these people can start commenting saying they've got 300,000 miles on them, because I'll be honest, I buy them with about 100,000, 120,000 on them, and they die within about 20,000 miles. It's not for lack of servicing. I serviced them. The first thing I do is I swap the thermostat, new water pump, new coolant. I flush the heater matrix out because I don't want to crack a head. New oil, new filter, and they still don't last very long. Naturally, as soon as I started saying, oh yeah, well, you know, my engine's gone, you had the M57 Heroes come out. It's just M57er. Now, this is an auto. If it was a manual, I can assure you it would have a 3 litre in it by now. I am going to do an M57 conversion into an auto. I've got a black auto and she's been fully resprayed. It's got a lift kit on it. Beautiful, really, as far as P38's go. The interior was reconditioned. I bought it with a cracked cylinder head. Well, an assumed cracked cylinder head. They actually had the head pressure tested, new radiator. It's had everything thrown at it. I got £5,500 of receipts with her. And my idea always was to stick a 3 litre in her. Why would you 3 litre an auto? I'm sick and tired of clutches going, so I tend to use an automatic for towing with. I've never actually killed a box in one of these, or anything auto. So I suppose at some point in the future, I have started talking to a few people locally that have done a lot of M57 conversions into Transits, Range Rovers, you name it, they've 57'd it. And they said that they would give some advice and help along the journey of putting a 3 litre into an auto P38. So it's definitely going to happen. At the moment, basically I've got an X5 60 plate with a M57 in it. It's got the 8-speed auto. I don't know if I want to keep the 8-speed auto or plumb it into the existing HP44 in the HP22 in the Range Rover. I don't know. It's the adaptation plate for the transfer box on the back. I'm sure I'm not really a Land Rover man. I don't really like them that much. I just like the comfort, and to be honest, I bought my first P38 when I was 21, and I always feel a bit lost when I don't have one. So I started recently getting back into buying them. I don't know, there's not much like them. They are very simple to work on, they're comfy to drive. So yeah, I hope this video might help anybody that has got a engine problems in a P38. You might know to an engine in an Amiga at a breaker's yard, or as I say, come across one cheap on Facebook maybe, because they are getting thin on the ground. You can't get hold of these engines like you used to. Once upon a time they weren't really that expensive, you know, £200 or £300. You'd buy an M51. It was just a case of fitting it after that. And anybody that wants to have a bit of a go at doing it, as I say, I should have really filmed taking the engine out and putting the engine in, because they are not that difficult. Even with the fucking bull bar in the way, they're not that difficult to do. It shouldn't necessarily mean the death of your Range Rover if the engine's gone. And you can go onto Facebook, you can go onto eBay at any given time, and there's always plenty of P38 diesels overheating, and they're for peanuts. You can buy any number of them. I'm actually starting to think about buying a few of them and stockpiling M51s, and not really do it as so much for profit, only just for the appreciation of a P38 Range Rover. They are getting rarer. You used to see them all the time. Now they are slowly starting to die out. Thankfully, people are starting to realise that, you know, it's still a Range Rover at the end of the day, and they are starting to get collectability interest. People are starting to buy them because, well, they're getting rarer and it's still a Range Rover. And to be fair, the Mark 1s are fucking awful to drive. They're horrible. I've got a few. I'm not a massive fan of driving one of them as a daily. So, yeah. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. I hope that this helps anybody coming in clutch with an engine. I've ordered a GoPro, so I am going to start filming complete engine removals, replacements. This M51, I'm going to get it rebuilt. There isn't an awful lot of information online about the BMW engines that are in them, and it's quite funny really. The German engineering's the part that generally lets them down. If you've got the Rover V8 in, they are problematic. To say that they're the world's greatest engine is it's a travesty, because they're terrible. This one, I have posted a video already. It's got a head gasket gone on this one. It's the passenger side, but I'll do both of them. So one of the days I'm going to stick a set of head gaskets on her. But I'll get the GoPro for that, and then I'll film it start to finish. I'll introduce everybody to the company that I use for all my engine skimming services and all that. This is actually a Turner engine. This is a top added. I was originally going to use this engine in the Vitesse, but I opted against using that one. And she's got her own 4.6 top added in her now. So, as I say, we've got a lot of SD ones, got a lot of Rovers in general. I suppose. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys. See you in the next one.